Um, I haven't seen Manborg. Manborg's a short,
Oh,
right?
you got to watch it. No, no, it's well, it may have been like a short before. Now he did have one called Biocop. I know that Steven Kostanski, he had one called Biocop, and it was like a trailer. They were sort of like making fun of movies in the 80s that were like super gory or like focused on body horror kind of stuff. That's what the Biocop one was. But Manborg is more like fake like green screen backgrounds with like the actors in the front and then like sort of kung fu dubbing and then like stop motion and then like stop motion puppetry in it, and it's just all kinds of like crazy. And there's some characters in there that there's one guy who was like an Asian guy, and they do his voice and they dub it over, and he sounds like Psycho Gorman. So I think it might have been the same guy that was doing the voice on there. But it's just all kinds of like low budget awesomeness all together, and super creative with all like the stop motion puppetry they have in there with a lot of the characters. A lot of things that you'll see like with those characters in Psycho Gorman, you can tell they expanded on from Manborg.
So is this a findable movie? Because
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw it on did I see it on Vudu? Is that where I saw it on? Or where did I watch it? I'll have to
well, I'm gonna have to find this one because now as I look it up, so production on this
it,
one was in 2009, and it took them a year to film and 2 years of post-productions.
yeah.
Post-production on it. The entire production cost was approximately $1,000.
Are you kidding me?
And
well, I'm impressed.
It was done by the same guy, Steve Kostanski. And he said he shot most of it in his parents' garage with a green screen. So
well, I mean, the budget might have been that, but like the amount of time that he spent on it must have taken forever.
3 years. And he said most of the
set
pieces
exactly.
were,
yeah.
And most of the set pieces were built with scraps that they found in dumpsters. So
okay. Well, it's like the way that I would describe it is awesomely low budget because it's like super entertaining. It's super low budget, but it's really enjoyable the whole way through. Like it actually moves pretty fast. And I mean, you're either gonna like find it super enjoyable like I did, or you're probably gonna turn it off right away.
But I'll tell you what, I'll tell you one thing. There's no way if you can find it now today on one of these platforms.
Yeah,
they made money on this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
if it, like sure, it's 3 years. I get it. It's 3 years of work. But if you spent $1,000 and made it out of stuff you found in a dumpster, and it was just work and post production to get it done, and you could still see it now, 10 years later, they've made money on this thing and are probably still making money on this thing, which is really kind of crazy. So if you want to know the plot of Manborg. It's about Count Draculon and his, and his Nazi vampire forces that seek to take over Earth during the Hell Wars. And a soldier is killed attempting to fight the Count and then is transformed into Manborg after his body is fitted with robotics. So then Manborg becomes active in Megadeth City and he meets with resistance fighters. And essentially there's a group of them that go off to fight Count Draculon. Now, the one thing that I find very interesting about this plot and the fact that I still haven't seen it, now we'll have to see it, is that you can't like think about the big ideas that they're throwing out there. This is Count Dracula.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to take over Earth during these Hell Wars. Like these are big concepts. Yet he was able to film those big concepts in his garage with a green screen.
Yeah, and it's one of those like filming like big concepts with low budget is not something that we usually recommend. But if there's somebody that's good at puppetry, like these guys are, then yeah, go for it. Especially if it's like awesomely enjoyable. So this is on Vudu. This is where I saw it. It's on Vudu.
It's on Vudu. So there you go. You can still see it. And what that means is that, like, 10 years ago, these guys made this for $1,000, put a bunch of time in it, but they're still getting money from it today.
You're gonna watch something super low budget, but you're also gonna watch something super creative and very enjoyable. And like it was great too because they do all these nods to like RoboCop, and they have a lot of like the things that Manborg wears, which is like the like in RoboCop when he's moving around and shit. Yeah. There's a lot of that in there too, and there's like gladiator battles with all these like crazy puppets and everything. I mean, they definitely put like, I mean, I can't believe they did it for that little amount, but there was a lot of creativity put into it.
Well, they are visual effects guys, so obviously they're leveraging their own talents. Now, what's also interesting with you guys, these guys also did something else that we talk about as a way to launch your career or get things going. So these guys were a bunch of buddies, and all of this started for them by making fake trailers. So what they did in their spare time was they were making fake trailers for film ideas that they had. And then one of the fake trailers goes viral or gets picked up, and then they were able to leverage that into making it into a feature. And once they did one, They made more. So when you're looking at Psycho Gorman, and now granted, these guys aren't making Marvel movies now. They're still making like $1 million, essentially low budget. But this is what they're doing. They're filmmakers. And if you look at the trajectory on it, it's pretty awesome. They went out, made fake trailers. The fake trailers were able to help them raise financing to make one low budget movie. And they've subsequently gone on to have their own production company and make, a good 5 low budget horror movies. And some of them, and they're all readily available to be watched.
And they're doing stuff that's like way outside of the box from what Hollywood does. In other words, it means that you're going to see something different than you see at the movie theater all the time, which is I'm all for.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Like they're basically doing what you should be doing. Don't replicate what you're seeing in a Hollywood movie. Do something that's fucking weird that you don't see anywhere else. And
right. It's something that you want to see that you wish somebody else would make but hasn't yet. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it feels like that they're doing. Yeah.
And if you look up and down everything they've done, that's exactly what it is. 80s throwback horror. They're all uniquely different and exploring ideas that you're not going to see anywhere else. Like, honestly, if you watch Psycho Gorman, I remember halfway through it going, fuck, this is a movie that like I would have made in college. Like if I was drunk enough and came up with the idea and I was like, no, this totally makes sense. Evil overlord, friends, kids get in adventures together. Like it's stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else. And there's so many nods and stuff, and they're just having fun with it that it's such a great. I mean, I'm excited to see what comes next from these guys.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
Yeah, definitely. They'll probably get like more budget. I think like Psycho Gorman went over pretty well, and that definitely had a higher budget than The Void. So I think that they'll probably get some more budget for the next one. Hopefully, they won't go mainstream on us though.
If you look, they are currently, they're currently in production or in post production on a Day of the Dead TV series.
Okay, that's cool. That's good.
Which is kind of cool.
That's actually a pretty good use of their talents there. So they can do a lot of puppet effects with it.
Yeah, and it's not from them, right? So it could be. Yeah, the director of Psycho Gorman that Steve is. Yeah, so he's directing. By the way, I kind of had read this that they were going to do a TV series on Day of the Dead, which, by the way, is the most underrated of the Romero.
Did you see the recent remake, like the movie remake a couple years ago that came out?
Which
of Day of the Dead? There's a remake that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, Day of the Dead Bloodline. Yeah, the 1985 version with Bub, the zombie is the one.
Yeah, the original Romero.
The original one is the one that I remember. No, I didn't see Day of the Dead Bloodline. You know what? Now that I say that's 5 years ago now, and I do remember it coming out. Yeah, there's a new version of Bub right on the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't seen that.
There's another one that Steven Kostanski worked on. I did the effects on. It's called Todd and the Book of Pure Evil, which is actually a really cool series. If you've ever seen that one, that's definitely worth checking out.
Very cool. Very cool. So anyhow, I mean, I think looking at this, it was kind of interesting. And hopefully we put a bunch of stuff on people's radar here. I think all these films from a perspective, hey, as just a fan, I think Psycho Gorman, The Void, Manborg, and The Divide, like all of these. I mean, those are kind of the ones we kind of chatted about here. All of those are worth seeing, just as a fan, just because they're all indie horror. They're all really well done in their own right. But as an indie filmmaker, all of them kind of, I think you can look at them. You could look at any of these ones and think, hey, these are out of the box ideas. Like this is and this got made and worked. The Divide obviously is great at showing how to take big concepts and doing them on a small budget. Hell, all of them are. Like if you actually look at Psycho Gorman, it's like a Marvel concept and
right, it is totally
on a low budget. I mean, I just think it's impressive.
Yeah. Well, the Thanos is actually a good analogy because he doesn't want to destroy everything. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much good stuff going on here, and I think it's a lot of what indie horror is all about, and it's cool to see that some of these guys are going on to do stuff like direct Day of the Dead, the TV series, and hopefully they get more stuff coming out of them, because I think it's stuff that everyone should check out for sure.
Yeah, and I do have a recommend on like a micro movie too. So we're always telling people to, and this is like puppet adjacent. So
Mhm.
we're always telling people to, hit us up to if they want to get their movies out there. So I heard from this guy named John Bristol, and he did a puppet movie called Head. And now there's tons of movies that are called Head, strangely, but this one is about a bunch of puppets that get decapitated in the woods. So it's sort of like a Friday the 13th. Think of Friday the 13th, but like with all puppets. And then like the legend of this guy and like in these wooded areas where everybody goes to camp, like killing people, and all the locals have stories about him. And then these puppets go out camping, and then slowly they get picked off one by one. And then they see all their fellow campers with their heads like stuck up in trees. Like, so the killer decapitates puppet heads. So there's like all these random decapitated puppet heads around, but it's got the same tropes of like a Friday the 13th movie, but with puppets. And just see like any kind of regular movie swapped out with puppets, let alone horror, is pretty hilarious.
But is it all puppets or is it puppets and humans?
Oh no, it's all puppets. Yeah,
It's all
it's like
puppets.
it's pretty like micro, and then like all puppets. And it's on now it was on Amazon for a while, but it's on Tubi now, so you can check it on there, or you can buy it on Amazon. But definitely check this guy out, John Bristol. This is pretty funny. He's got a movie and it's on YouTube, and it's called all of his movies look like they have puppets on it. So he's staying true to his puppet vision, but he has one on YouTube called Josh and Todd: The Story of a Man and His Puppet, which I thought was funny.
Well, you know what? It's just like these guys, the Astron 6 guys. They're visual effects and special effects guys. So double down on it. He's a puppet guy. Just double down on puppets. Do what you're good at. Follow your passion. If you're passionate about puppets, just stick with puppets.
And now, did you see anything this week, or do you have any recommends?
The only thing that I kind of watched, because I was watching Psycho Gorman and The Void, getting caught up on those. It popped up on Netflix while I was just flipping around on the couch, and I think I was telling you I watched Van Helsing, which I think was on Sci-Fi for a long time, and I'd never seen it before, and I was just like, the trailer kind of took. There's a bunch of new stuff that Netflix picked up that's horror related, and I just kind of flipped around. And I have to say, like, the one thing that's interesting, the original Van Helsing stuff on the original concept, it was more like, he's a vampire hunter, really, right? But the TV show, it interested me because they kind of took the vampire concept and made it like more zombie-like, because it's just the whole world is taken over by vampires. And essentially the only difference one, which I thought was kind of funny, was it is basically zombies, but they talk and think a little bit. Now I have no idea where the whole show goes, because kind of where I got a vampire bitter and then turned human again. So I could totally change and concentrate on other stuff. But I found it pretty intriguing that vampires are essentially zombies that can talk. And and I was kind of like, that's interesting. They really are.
We were talking about Army of the Dead, and like we're like defining like zombies and vampires and all that stuff. If you think about it too much, it just starts to get really confusing how much they sort of intersect.
They do.
All like the undead sort of intersect, and what the rules are between them.
Yeah, because we were talking about Army of the Dead, because Army of the Dead, realistically, like the main zombies there were essentially vampires. Because they could talk and interact. Although they didn't allude to whether or not they were the same person that they were originally. Like that's the part of that I didn't really get. So it's, imagine like you died as a zombie, and then your meat puppet corpse is walking around brainless, but then all of a sudden you turn into a whole new entity that becomes the zombie king, right? You're not really Brad the zombie. You're kind of like, as a zombie entity taken over your body, and you've become something completely new. Which is kind of like a different concept that never got explained in Army of the Dead. They could, you know what I mean? Like, they could talk, they could interact. There was a zombie king, a zombie queen. That they were doing stuff, they were interacting, but were they really the same people they were before, or is some new entity taking over?
Well, we don't know. Like, we don't know like how like slow-minded they were before. Like, who knows? So we would have to, in the context, we would have to see what they were like before to see what they're like now.
Because vampires are essentially the same person. That's been turned to a vampire. Now I'm wondering if, like, a zombies
seem to like, well, vampires seem to like, they keep their mind. They don't seem to like lose their brain. With zombies, it's like they lose their brain, or they lose their brain connection to like their thought process before.
So you see my point there. It's like if you look at the original Romero zombie, it's like they're not the people. Like, Brad the zombie is not Brad. It's just his lifeless meat puppet corpse walking around
Yeah.
bumping into things because it's been reanimated. Your soul or whatever has completely left that body. But Army of the Dead had walking, talking zombies. So
Yeah.
were they the original person or are they someone new? And if they are someone new, where did that come from? It's
Who
something that
knows?
they
Let's get
didn't
Zack
explore.
Snyder on the show next
Yeah,
week. And
they didn't explain that at all,
Yeah.
because if it is the original person,
Yeah.
they're really just vampires.
I have a feeling if we asked Zack, let's say we got Zack Snyder on the show and we asked him next week, he'd probably give us an excuse, but I think he was just making it up.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think he
and
knows.
there is a
Yeah.
there is one scene, and I wonder if it was actually, like we talked about it when we did our talk on Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
And there's also that scene where like one of them gets shot, but there's like a metal ricochet,
Mhm.
like, so it's actually like a,
Oh yeah, the Terminator zombie.
there's
Yeah.
a Terminator zombie. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, how does that fit in? So yeah, anyhow, I found it interesting watching Van Helsing thinking. It just got me thinking about the concept of like, well, the zombie concept is really that there's a horde of evil things that are kind of going around, and that was kind of the original thing. It's like there's not one. It's not like
Yeah.
Freddy or Jason or someone. It's a horde of things that are
Yeah.
kind of faceless. And they applied that. It was really, if you think back to the 50s, 60s, or 70s, whenever it was, like in the 60s when Romero really basically came up with it, even though zombies existed before that. That was kind of the scary thing. It was a horde.
Yeah.
You can't really, like, they're slow, they're coming at you, but there's enough of them that if you
Right.
around,
Yeah.
that was the scary thing. The Blob was kind of like that, had that thing of,
with Romero, it was always sort of like thematically, it was like man versus society. So it's like we're outnumbered by the enemy against us, basically. And that's what's scary. Like you're right.
That's the scary
about
thing.
that.
That's the scary thing. That
they're slow, but the numbers are so large.
So large. And very few other films or concepts that explored that, or like I said, like the Blob is just this big unescapable blob.
Blob is awesome. The freaking 88 remake of it is fucking great.
It's great, but you couldn't escape it. Like the Blob is just like, oh my gosh. Evasions of the Body Snatchers was one, because he didn't know who the bad guy was. It was always, they're everywhere. But it was just interesting. Like vampires have always been like, oh no, there's a vampire. There's one vampire, or there's 5 vampires, and you could identify them, and they had names. Van Helsing, at least this opening, I was like, it's interesting to make them. Well, actually, didn't the Will Smith movie do that?
Oh, I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. They were all vampires, weren't they?
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah. Yeah, he's the last man on Earth, and they were all vampires. Yeah.
Yeah, so that it has been explored before. It has been explored before. Now that I think about it. Anyhow, I just watched it, so that's kind of interesting. It's an interesting concept. I don't know if I'll keep going on it, but it was interesting. So that's the only thing. It made me think about the idea of what else could you make a horde of? Can you make a horde of werefrogs or like anything? It's the horde that gets you, and then you can apply it to other stuff. Like
I would love to see like somebody go into a town like that's like comprised solely of like werefrogs, and like you're trapped in, and like all you see is like werefrogs like surrounding.
Or the other one that was kind of like that I enjoyed, that I don't think really got the respect it deserved, was The Mist.
The Mist is great. Well, The Mist has gotten a lot more respect over the years because of the insanely ballsy ending that it had.
Yeah, like it was a crazy ending. Crazy.
Yeah, spoiler alert, like he commits suicide, and then actually help arrives, and then like everybody's okay, like right after he commits suicide. But
but also it's like you didn't know it was going. This all-encompassing mist was always around you. You're just escaping this mist.
Oh, dude, and like the creatures that came out of the thing were freaky. Like, now, wasn't there like a Netflix series that came out of the mist? I don't think I watched it because I don't think it had a very good word of mouth. But I mean, the movie's great.
Yeah, exactly. Anyhow, I got to wrap this up here now.
So, would you recommend the Van Helsing one, the series? I mean, it's got to be better than like it's not Hugh Jackman's fault in that original movie. It's got to be better than that version. Yeah, I remember when we saw that at the theater, and we were like, "Oh my god, these effects are such low budget."
I just looked it up,
but this is a completely separate thing.
It's a completely separate thing, and it did last. It looks like 4 or 5 seasons, so it's someone. But
I think that like the original Van Helsing even has gained some traction as a cult status for being kind of like an enjoyably bad movie, though. I don't know about like the series after, but it did also spawn a lot of like concepts from right after that. So
anyhow, that's it. And okay, so you got any last thoughts?
No, that's it. Like, check out some of these. Like, you won't be disappointed if you want to see some cool practical effects, and you check out The Void and Psycho Gorman and Manborg. I mean, and get some beers because like they're pretty fun. Like especially like
100%.
Manborg is like super enjoyable if you're drunk.
100%. That would be my final thoughts. Is I think what we've covered here, they're all movies that you should watch. Kudos
Yeah.
to these guys for making them. I think there's something you can take away as both an indie horror filmmaker or fan.
Yeah, props to people for making stuff that's like fun nowadays. So there's not that many fun movies that people are making that much anymore. So
exactly. So yeah, so if you made it this far, clearly you too are a fan. And please go to deadharvey.com. Follow us on social, sign up for our e-newsletter, subscribe to the podcast. The more people that follow and listen, the more we can talk about and put other films on people's radars. So deadharvey.com, check it out, follow us where you can, and if you can go on iTunes, wherever you're listening, and give us a like or star or a rating that's good, that helps us as well. So that's all I got. Until next week.
okay, until next week.
Everything has led to this.